Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to the Wellness Coach on Blog Talk Radio. I'm your host, Edie Summers, and I am so grateful and honored today to have as my guest musician Philip Wesley. Philip Wesley is a solo piano artist and composer. His most popular album, Dark Night of the Soul, reached #1 on the iTunes charts, topped the top 100 on Amazon, and is a bestseller on CD Baby, and topped the Billboard charts for all of his genre of music. Philip's interest in the piano didn't develop until 1991 when he went to college to study music therapy, and he was serendipitously introduced to the piano music of other modern composers. I definitely want to talk to him about that. I think one of those composers was David Luntz. And Philip also worked as a board-certified music therapist for nearly 10 years while he was working on his craft of composing piano music and developing his style. Late in 2002, early 2003, saw the release of Philip's first album, Finding Solace. In 2004 and 2005, he released his next two albums, In a Lifetime and Comfort and Joy. Philip finally released his fourth album, Dark Night of the Soul, in the fall of 2008. Although it took a couple of years before it took off and went completely viral, it did resonate with people all over the world, and it has gone on to become his most popular album to date. In 2012, Philip released two new albums, Hope Endures, a sister album and sequel to Dark Night of the Soul, and his 10-year retrospective best of album called Heart to Hands. I'm going to tell you a little bit about Philip's retrospective album, Heart to Hands, while Philip comes on the line here. Heart to Hands is a retrospective compilation that features some of Philip Wesley's most beloved solo piano works, spanning his first 5 albums over the course of a decade. All of the songs have been re-recorded and remastered. For those familiar with Philip Wesley's music, it will be like hearing them again for the first time. For those who are not familiar with his music, this is the perfect place to start. Tender, romantic, introspective, powerful, and intense, a master of the contemporary piano solo genre, Philip presents a soul-stirring album for a worldwide audience. Included are the 12 following songs: Lamentations of the Heart, Wings to Freedom, Light and Shadow, Comfort and Joy, Dark Night of the Soul, At This Moment, Leaving the Darkness Behind, Love Remembered, The Unknown, Equestrian Dream, Racing Against the Sunset, and Second Chances. And while we're waiting for Philip, Philip is on the line here, but I'm going to play actually one of the clips from his album, Heart to Hands. It's called At This Moment. Be right back. And you've been listening to At This Moment, which is off of Philip Wesley's retrospective album, Heart to Hands. And I want to welcome Philip into the studio. Hi, Philip. Thanks for being here. How are you?
Hi, Edie. Can you hear me?
I can. Yes.
Great.
Well, that was very beautiful. Could you tell us a little bit about that song in particular, At This Moment?
Well, At This Moment was the very first track on my very first album, Finding Solace, which I released back at the end of 2002, beginning of 2003. It's probably one of the more popular songs on the album. And the song is really about learning to live life in the present moment. I think so many times we get caught up in our troubles and our problems, and we worry about the future and we regret the past and really fail to enjoy the moment. And so really that's what the song is about. And
what a perfect way to start, because there really isn't, that's really where everything is in the present moment. So I just appreciate what you just said, and just I love that there's a song about that. That's I think so important for all of us, really. So thank you for expressing that so eloquently. And I have to say I'm a fan first and foremost, if that's not apparent by now. And I think I heard you first on Pandora, and I listen to your music all the time while I'm writing, and I find it very relaxing. And I was really interested. I would love to know more of your background, because am I understanding it correctly that you did write a CD or like some music for stress management or something along those lines? Can you tell us more about your background, because I was curious about that part?
Yeah. So to start, I mean, we have to go way back to when I was a kid. I was not a musical kid at all. I loved music. I enjoyed listening to music, but I never really occurred to me to play an instrument, as funny as that sounds. I was an athlete growing up. I mean, I played soccer for 6 years and football for 4 years, and I ran track for a year, but I got injured a lot. And so I thought at the age of 16, well, I need to take up something a little less physical. And so ironically, I started playing guitar at the age of 16, which in itself is very physical. And my mother always wanted me to play the piano, but I always blew her off, and I thought, that's not really what I'm interested in. And of course, young adolescent boys want to play rock music, and they want to play guitar, they want to play drums and stuff like that. So really, that's where I got started with music, was at the age of 16 playing guitar music. And I used to play a lot of guitar virtuoso music, and I would just lock myself in my room for hours and get lost in music. And, I guess you could say I was one of those kids that kind of had a rich inner world, if you will.
I love that.
And so really, I mean, that was, for me, the start of it. I just felt very passionate about it. And so when I finished high school and went to college, I discovered music therapy, and I was intrigued by it. And so I had done some research on it. I talked to some professors in the area and decided that it was for me at the time. And I also discovered in my studies that not only did I have to be proficient in guitar, but also in piano. And really that was the start of my journey with the piano, was when I was in college, around the age of 20 years old, actually. I remember taking music, a lot of the core courses in music theory and composition and class piano, and I just remember hearing this music coming from the front of the room. The advanced students were sitting in the front, and us beginners were in the back of the room, and we were learning, whatever simple little song it was we were studying. I remember hearing this music, and I thought, wow, that's beautiful music. What is that? And everybody said, well, that's David Lawn's. I said, who's David Lawn? So I bought a CD and a songbook. Of course, this was before the internet. So I went to the local music store and bought a CD and a songbook, and I just fell in love with this modern contemporary style of piano music, and that's really where my journey began. and I began composing almost immediately.
Wow.
And some of the songs on the very first album I released date back to those very early compositions. So I finished my degree in music therapy, and I practiced in St. Louis, where I'm originally from. And I did that for almost 10 years. And every music therapist that practices has a particular area of interest or specialty. Some work in psychiatry, some work with geriatrics, some work with autistic children. It varies. My area of expertise and study was psychiatry. I was fascinated with mental health and how music could be used to help people in mental health settings. And so, but as you can imagine, that particular profession, like any helping profession, has a pretty high burnout rate. So, I saw a lot of really heavy stuff through my years of practice, and I just felt after 10 years it was time to move on and do other things, and really during that time is when I began composing what would become my current albums. Wow. And so I kind of took it in a different direction, not as a board-certified music therapist per se, but I do have a lot of people that tell me that my music is therapeutic to them.
Absolutely. And it's also, I didn't know that, so that you specialized in working with mental health. So did that influence your other albums and some of your other songs? I'm just curious.
I think it can't be helped working with a population that is very difficult to deal with, and you see a lot of really heavy emotional stuff. I think that kind of seeps in a little bit, and maybe influences a little bit, but I would say a lot of my music is very autobiographical. I mean, it's influenced by whatever it is that I'm dealing with in my own life. The things that I experience and do. So. Wow,
that's so fascinating, and I have to say I love David Lons too, and I think he was one of the first. Now I call it neoclassical. I know you call it contemporary.
Right.
I know that. Yeah. So but like the modern contemporary music. I think I remember playing him too.
The record industry likes to categorize it as new age music, but I never really understood that. I mean, I know there's some music out there that could be considered new age, but I've always felt like mine was just more of a modern contemporary focus. It's not really classical, it's not really jazz, although it lends itself, from those things. But what's in a name? I mean, why do they call jazz and rock and roll? It's a way of categorizing or labeling something, I guess.
Right, and it's and labels we can only go so far, and it really is about the liberation of the mind and the body and the soul. So, which is you can't really categorize. So, well, I was going to play your next song, which is "Comfort and Joy." I was wondering if you could give us a little background on that particular song. Like what?
So Comfort and Joy is the title track to my Christmas album, which I released back in 2005. And, it's just the songs in that album are my take of traditional Christmas music, but I also have some original compositions in there, and Comfort and Joy is one of them. And Comfort and Joy for me is just, about being with friends and family and the holidays. And, I think because Christmas is so commercialized, it can be very stressful.
Yes.
And it's a difficult time of year for a lot of people for various reasons, but
Definitely.
Really that's what I wanted the album to be about, was about comfort and joy and peace and serenity during a sometimes hectic time of year.
And also, I know that was for your Christmas album, but I also know that this is Valentine's Day, and that can also be sometimes that's a very commercial holiday too. So it's just, again, it's nice to get back in touch with, you were talking about being in the moment and just sort of like those internal, points of reference that we can all experience, regardless of kind of what's going on in the outside world. And so I'm going to go ahead and play. This is part of your song, Comfort and Joy. So we'll be right back. That was beautiful. You were just listening to Comfort and Joy, and that is an original composition off of Philip's Christmas album. Is that correct, Philip? Hopefully
right. I
summarized that correctly.
It also appears on the Heart to Hands album, which is the retrospective album, kind of like a best-of album.
And that's really beautiful. I really love that. And I'm curious about your how you actually compose. Now, I do play piano myself. I'm not at the level that you're at. I have dabbled a little bit in improvising, and I'm curious about. I think first of all, what's really interesting to me is that I can hear, say, like the influence of David Lund's. However, you're original. Like, I think that's what really strikes me about your music is it strikes like every time I hear it, and especially like the next song we're going to play is Dark Night of the Soul. I feel like this connection is like, this feels, it resonates with me. I recognize this, and yet it's original. I'm wondering what your procedure, like, how do you compose? Where does it come from?
Well, first of all, you're not the first person to say that. I hear that over and over and over from a lot of people about the connection, which is very cool and very flattering. It's one thing to write music; it's another thing to connect with people on such a deep emotional level. It's such a blessing. But
yes.
my process for writing music, the muse comes and goes. There's times when I just have nothing. I just feel completely uninspired, and then all of a sudden inspiration just strikes, and it comes out of nowhere, and it's totally unexpected. It's a pleasant surprise when it happens. But like I said earlier, a lot of my muse comes from life experiences and things that I experience and feel, and but my process for writing isn't. I actually don't write anything down. I don't put pen to paper. I don't use software when I compose. I just it's kind of funny. I kind of noodle. I'll just play, and I'll come across these ideas, and I'll develop them, and nothing is more close to that as the next song that you're going to play, Dark Night of the Soul. It's one of those songs that I came across this musical idea, and before I knew it, when I was looking at the keyboard, I was just seeing the song unfold before me. I was just seeing exactly where I wanted to go. Not every song happens like that, and Dark Night was actually one of the quickest songs that I had written, and it also happens to be one of the most popular songs that I've written, which was a total shock to me. I mean, I had no idea. And so, the song just unfolded, and it was just amazing the way that happened. And other times, other songs take years to write because I'm stuck and I have writer's block, or, it just doesn't seem finished, or something's missing. And so sometimes it's a little bit of a crock-pot type approach to some of the songs, of just playing them, letting them stew, letting them simmer over time before they're completely finished. So, you know, it really depends on the song, but, you know, bottom line is I think my inspiration has to be there for one, and two, just a lot of experimentation and improvisation and just finding, actually a little bit like Forrest Gump, stumbling across these ideas.
Oh, I love that. And then also you mentioned that Dark Night of the Soul. Did it almost feel like it came through you then in that instance? I mean, I've wondered about this process sometimes of in that case. That album, every song on that album was really interesting. It just, I don't know, I was in the zone. I was plugged into something. I don't know what it was, but it flowed through me. And again, I mean, I think it had a lot to do with, you know, what I was going through at the time in my life. I mean, it was probably one of the most challenging and emotionally turbulent times in my life. And I think a lot of people really relate to that. Out of all my albums, Dark Night of the Soul is probably the most relatable. I mean, a lot of people hear my music and think, oh, it's so pretty, it's so relaxing, it's so beautiful, but nobody really talks about the really intense emotional connection until they listen to Dark Night of the Soul. And that album, I mean, a fan of mine told me, he said he's listened to all my music, and he said that particular album, he said every single song is like a grand slam home run. I mean, every song just really connects and is extremely powerful. And, you know, he's not the first person to say that. It's just incredible, the response that I've gotten from people over the years about this album. And it's still popular today, and I released it back in 2008. And I'm one of those people. I just love it, and it does. There's something about it that resonates, and you're right. It's like every single song on there. So we're going to play Dark Night of the Soul right now, but then also what of the other MP3s that you sent me here are from that album, Dark Night of the Soul? Is it Lamentations of the Heart, Leaving the Darkness Behind? Are those in there as well? Okay, so maybe the next three. So let's play Dark Night of the Soul, and then we'll introduce the other two as well. So we'll be right back. Here is Dark Night of the Soul from the album Dark Night of the Soul. I just, you've been listening to, that was The Dark Night of the Soul, from Philip's album Dark Night of the Soul, and I get chill bumps every time I hear that. It's every single time. So, that actually might have been the first song that I ever heard of yours, come to think of it. So, it wouldn't surprise me.
Awesome.
I'm sorry.
I said, what a first song to start with. I mean,
what a first song to start with. Well, it's interesting because I love the title, and I love how it I think it simultaneously expresses the feeling of being kind of in that dark night of the soul, but at the same time, it feels like very hopeful to me.
And again, you're not the first person to say that. I mean, I keep hearing that over and over from people. There's something about that song, not just that song, but the whole album. And really, the whole album is about that. I mean, it's about this journey through, it's a music allegory, this journey through darkness and coming out of the darkness on the other side and into the light and into a new day.
That's so well said. And I'm wondering, the next one we're going to play is Lamentations of the Heart.
Yes.
I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about that one, but also I love that allegory that you just described, like the allegory of kind of going through and coming out the other side and into the light. And I'm wondering, I think I saw on your website, does faith play a role for you, or like what was that? Is that a process? Was that a factor at all for you in all of this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my music is instrumental, but I do consider myself a Christian. I was raised Christian, and those are my beliefs. But I'm not one of those people that is very preachy about it, and it's more personal to me. And right. I think there's a spiritual depth to the music that people can feel and that they can relate to. And people actually don't know that about me until they actually read the liner notes of my albums. But again, for me, it's just a very personal, private thing. But it does come out in my music for sure. It's not like I'm a Christian artist that has words to their songs. I mean, you can listen to a Christian song and tell for sure. But and it's funny too because I'm considered a new age artist, so it's kind of a little bit of a conflict there. But whatever. To me, again, it's all just really beautiful piano music that comes from the heart.
I love the way you say that. It comes from the heart. I think that probably is why it's connecting with so many people, because I think that people really crave that and that expression. Sure. And, I mean, not everyone feels brave enough in every single moment to express from the heart. So that's why we need each other to do it we kind of have to help each other along the way, I think.
Right.
So what is Lamentations of the Heart? Do you want to give any backstory for that, or go ahead.
Yeah, Lamentations of the Heart is a song I originally wrote in the late 90s. I didn't release it actually until 2002. And this song is really about, we all go through some heavy stuff in our lives, and we're all left to deal with it in our own ways. And whether that's a divorce or death of a loved one or whatever it might be, again, we all go through this heavy stuff, and it's just that process of going through it. And actually, Lamentations first appeared on my album my first album, Finding Solace. Way back in 2002. It's probably one of the most popular songs I've written, and it actually appears on 3 albums. First on Finding Solace, then it reappears on Dark Night of the Soul, and then again on Heart to Hands, because it's one of my best songs. But when I first started out as a musician, this was one of the songs that I would perform in public as I was promoting my first album. And again, most of the music on Finding Solace is just this very quiet, reflective, almost meditative kind of piano music. But there's a track on there that's a standout called Lamentations of the Heart. And every time I would play it public, people would say, what is that song? It's just such a beautiful song. And I would tell them what it was, and people were very complimentary. And And this kept happening over and over and over and over, and I thought, well, maybe there's something to this. Maybe I need to write a whole album of music like Lamentations of the Heart. And so kind of that was the genesis or the seed, if you will, for Dark Night of the Soul coming to be as it is today.
Wow.
Not only the difficult period that I went through in my life, but also because I think I was recognizing early on that this is the kind of music that people like and want.
Well, that's really great to know. I would not have known that if you hadn't shared that. So that's kind of cool to know that background on that. So with that being said, let's listen to Lamentations of the Heart, which is the catalyst for the album Dark Night of the Soul. I'll be right back. Beautiful. We were just listening to Lamentations of the Heart by Philip Wesley, and that's another one of the your songs that I tweet a lot. I just I can't help myself. So if you haven't noticed, the next song.
I read your tweets.
No, I love that. That's really, I love that. Twitter's interesting. I don't know if you knew this, but Twitter is, I guess, Google picks up Twitter. I had no idea. I just do it because it's fun, but apparently it's, I guess I'm still trying to understand how all of this social media works, but it's nice to be connected, though. So I think that's the bottom line. I love how you were talking about how you write from the heart, or that might be a paraphrase, but I can really feel it, and it's very. I talk again about the word resonating really comes up. Like your music really resonates with me, and I know that's resonated with a lot of people. Your next song is "Leaving the Darkness Behind." Is there anything that you would like to say about that recording?
Yeah, so Leaving the Darkness Behind is actually from my album called Hope Endures, and Hope Endures is the follow-up album to Dark Night of the Soul. When I was writing the music for the album that came after Dark Night of the Soul, I really think people were expecting Dark Night 2.0. And my muse really didn't want to take me there, and I never really felt like Dark Night of the Soul was completely finished anyways. I felt like I needed to continue this, telling the story and this journey. Through Darkness and Coming into the Light. And so really, Hope Endures is kind of like a sister album to Dark Night of the Soul in that it picks up where Dark Night leaves off. So, there's songs like, Leaving the Darkness Behind and The Unknown. And then it goes into to some other songs that also include my arrangements of hymns. I've had requests over the years from fans that wanted hymns, and I never had any albums that had hymns on them. So I felt like Hope Endures fit perfectly with that segue of also including hymns, because it's an album about faith, hope, and love, and second chances, and leaving the darkness behind, and so forth. And so really, that's the concept and journey for Hope Endures. And there are two, Dark Night of the Soul and Hope Endures are connected, but they're two very different albums.
I love that, and that will be perfect for the next song, which is Light and Shadow. It's kind of like the yin and the yang of life. And actually, we have a caller. I see you on here. If it's okay with you, I'm gonna play Leaving the Darkness Behind, because we were just talking about it, and then we'll bring you on the air. So if you can hang tight, we'll be right back. We're gonna play Leaving the Darkness Behind and from Hope Endures, and we'll be right back. Well, that was Leaving the Darkness Behind from Philip's sister album to Dark Night of the Soul, Hope Endures. I hope I got all that correct. And unfortunately, the caller dropped. I'm so sorry. I don't know. They dropped right after I played that song, unfortunately. But maybe they'll call back in. If you want to call back in, I hope you do call back in, whoever that was. The number is 619. Oh, here they are. They called back in. Okay. If that's okay with you, Philip, I'm going to bring them on the line.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Just a second here. Hi, caller, area code 954. You're on the line. Do you have a question for Philip? Hello? Hi. Hi, you're on the line. You're on the air. Hi. Do you have a question for Philip?
No, actually I do. Just a compliment.
Oh.
This is Mandy, and I'm a regular listener to Philip Wesley, and I actually accidentally connected with you. I was just trying to listen in on the show.
Uh-huh. Oh.
Oh, thanks for tuning in.
That's great.
You're welcome. But I've been listening to Philip Wesley. I started out on Pandora Radio listening to him, and his music changed my life. I don't know any other way to say it like so. I highly recommend the music, and even to children, everybody.
That's awesome. That's really amazing. You know, Pandora has changed my life. I mean, it's really given me so much exposure to people. It's just been incredible. I think what Pandora has done has just been amazing for independent musicians.
Absolutely. What a lovely thing to say. Thank you so much for calling in. Is there anything else you want to add to that?
I'd like to add Lamentations of the Heart was the song that woke me up out of my sleep. And I didn't know who Philip Wesley was at all. I had never heard of him, but I was sleeping, and when I heard the song, I woke up, and I said, I got to go hear him play. And he can tell you that I drove 2 hours from where I live to see him play live at a piano shop. And since then, I've highly recommended his music to scores of people. So keep up your work, Phil.
Oh, my goodness. Wow. Awesome. That's amazing.
Just out of curiosity, which city is it?
I'm in Hollywood, Florida.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, very cool.
Yeah, so I'm
that
looking
is
forward
so nice.
to coming back to Orlando. So hopefully I will be there.
Yeah, I will definitely be back.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Oh, go ahead.
Thank you for tuning in.
Thank you so much for calling.
Music. Bye-bye.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. Wow, that was really great. I'm so glad that she called in. And speaking of concerts, Philip, do you want to let people know about any upcoming concerts that you have?
Well, actually, I just finished some concerts on the West Coast. I played several shows in Southern California last month. And then I've got a little bit of a break. I'm getting ready to plan a tour that's going to hit the Pacific Northwest. It'll be Northern California, Oregon, Washington, Idaho, the Dakotas, Utah, and then I'll be playing again in Florida and probably in the Northeast. I'm going to try to hit New Jersey because I haven't been there yet either. And I'll be playing hopefully in Boston and Rhode Island as well.
Wow.
The best way for people to know about my concerts is to go to philipwesley.com and sign up to be on my official mailing list. You know, the interesting thing about social media is that it's so hit and miss. I mean, they control content. So if I announce something on, say, Facebook or Twitter, the chances of somebody seeing that are slim to none. And so really the best way to hear about, because I do direct-to-fan promotion, you know, my fans are my lifeblood. And so in order for people to really stay up to date with what's going on with me, if they sign up to be on my mailing list or my official website, I usually send out like a monthly newsletter. And for those people that are on my postcard mailing list, usually when I come to their state, they'll get a postcard in the mail directly from me letting them know about when and where and all the details. So
perfect. I'm so glad that you said that, and it really is true. I mean, there's so if people I'm going to spell it out for people. It's a lot of people listen through iTunes, for instance, so they may not see the show page, or so it's philipwesley.com. So that's PhilipWesley.com. And then, like Philip said, you can go ahead and sign up for his newsletter. It's really crucial, like you said, because that's the best way to find out for sure, like everything that's going on. And then it sounds like you also give people, it's just like a way to get deals and just everything. Just like you want to be.
Yeah, and I always tell people too, you know, I don't spam you. It's just for me to keep in touch with you on a monthly basis. And also, you know, people can unsubscribe. You know, they have that option. People get busy, so you know, I understand that. But again, it's just a way for me to keep in touch with the fans of my music.
Yeah, which is really great, and that's great. I'm here in Oregon, so I'm so glad that you're coming up to the Pacific Northwest, and it's just
we're probably looking at September for Oregon. It'll probably be is it Ashland, Oregon?
And, Ashland, beautiful.
Yeah, and Portland, Oregon, and
nice.
maybe one other city. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Well, I'll have to remember to. I'll have to get on your mailing list too then. Make sure that I know about that. I'm right here in Portland, so I'm giving myself a mental note here. Okay, well, thank you so much for sharing that information with us. And we have 2 more songs. So the next one is Light and Shadow. Can you tell us the background about that one? What album does it come from, first of all, and then anything else you'd like to share with us?
Sure. So Light and Shadow was another one of the compositions from Dark Night of the Soul. It reappears on my Best Of album called Heart to Hands. And the song is really about walking that fine line between light and darkness. I mean, we all go through difficult things in our life, and there's some days when we're doing really well, and then other times not so much. And so it's walking that fine line. And so that's why I call it Light and Shadow.
Perfect. Okay. I think that's really all we need to say. So let's go ahead and play Light and Shadow from Dark Night of the Soul. That was beautiful. You were listening to Light and Shadow from Philip Wesley's album Dark Night of the Soul. And Philip, I want to thank you. I just want to thank you so much for being here. I have one more song to play, and I was thinking we could play it as we go out, but I just wanted to thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to be here. This is a real treat for me. So is there anything else that you want to make sure that your fans know about? I know you're working on a new album. Isn't that right? Is there anything you want to share there?
Yeah. I am working on a new album. It's so far it's a very passionate sounding album. It's I think it's a little bit more classically influenced. By now I've got about a dozen or so songs, and I'm really looking forward to you guys hearing it. It's a little bit of a throwback to some of the songs from Dark Night of the Soul, that similar vibe. So I'm always try to give the fans what they want, but again, you never know where the music's going to take you. So it'll be interesting to see what people think of it. But I'm really liking some of the songs so far. I had the opportunity every year I play at a local shopping mall here in Nashville where I live, and it's a great way for me to meet the fans of my music that have been listening to me for a while, and also to make new fans. And I usually do several days in a row and play 8-hour days, and it gets really tiresome playing all the same songs over and over. So I think at one point I got a little brave and decided to slip some of the newer songs in there and from the new album that I'm working on, and to my surprise, a lot of people liked it, so that's a good sign. So I look forward to hopefully releasing it before the end of the year.
Oh, wow. That's great to hear. I look forward to listening to that. And I think that's so neat. That's kind of how you started out, too, isn't it? Playing. Didn't I read that on your bio or somewhere that you started out playing in the malls? Or I always ask this question. This is my own curiosity. Like, how did you get your, I don't know if I want to call it the big break, but how did that happen exactly? I love to hear that part of the story.
Well, in the beginning, I was just a gigging musician, just like a lot of musicians. They just go out in their hometown and they play out and they promote themselves live. And so back in the day, you remember Borders Books and Music, right?
Yes.
So before, when Borders was still alive and kicking and doing really well, they had music night every Friday and Saturday night. And so I would just literally get on the Borders circuit and I would play about a half dozen or so different Borders Books and Music stores all over the area where I was living at the time, and that's really how people started to get introduced to my music. And as I continued to write and record and release more music, it started to get all over the internet, and then eventually by my fourth album, Dark Night of the Soul, that's when really things started to take off for me. And part of it's a lot of hard work, but part of it is also being at the right place at the right time and being plugged into the right platform to promote your music. And so really, it wasn't until my fourth album that things really began to take off, and I was able to do music full time for a living, which I'm incredibly grateful for. And again, that goes back to the fan base, the people that actually listen to. That the people that stream my music and download off of iTunes or Amazon or CD Baby or my own website. I think one of the pleasant surprises was that a lot of my fans tend to be people that actually play the piano, and I have sheet music that I offer on my website for people. I have every single piece of music that I've written is available in sheet music as well as songbooks. It was a surprise to find that my biggest fan base, part of my fan base is people that play, people that are pianists, whether they're students or teachers or whoever that might be. And so that was a pleasant surprise. That's a huge demographic.
That's great to know. And I am one of those people that I do buy sheet music and play other people's compositions. So that's really good to know. I think I did see some of that on there. So that's good to know that it's available for every single song. And sometimes you can't find the music for every single song. So that's a nice treat to have for sure. And then I just remembered that my other question is, I'm not sure if I asked you this, since you did start playing piano when you were 20, right? Are you classically trained, or how does that work? Is it? I'm just curious about your training that way. Is it?
Yeah,
go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not really classically trained. You hear about these people that started playing piano when they were 4, and they've been classically trained, and they've been playing all this extremely difficult music. And I've never really, I had some training in college, but it was pretty limited, and most of what I do and have done has mostly been self-taught through independent study.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
I just studied the music of people that I really like, and just kind of immersed myself in that whole culture of music, and it just sort of started to seep in. But pretty quickly, right away, I took to the piano, because the piano is laid out step by step. It's very chromatic, and when you look at a piano, or at least when I look at a piano, it makes more sense to me in the patterns that I see versus when I look at a guitar, because a guitar is laid out very differently.
That's very true.
And so, I took theory and composition and piano, all together. So I think a lot of that helps me right out of the gate early on in my studies in college.
Mm-hmm. And then, okay, so I have two questions out of that. You say you see patterns, and can you look at a piano and see patterns? I mean, obviously there's, if you know theory and things like that, you would see obvious patterns, but do you see other patterns in addition, or is that what you're seeing is what you were trained in theory, or just also your own instinct?
Well, like, for example, Dark Night of the Soul, and a lot of my music is very structured. When I was composing Dark Night of the Soul, I kept seeing these patterns in these very specific structured ways, and so it's just this. What I like about that song is it's just a very simple musical idea, and then it builds on that. And there's different variations in the left hand and the right hand between melody and the chords. The different ways the chords are played and combined and added. And what I like about that song so much is that it starts out with this very simple musical idea, and it grows and builds, and then it ends as softly as it began. I think I think that's a really cool and fun way to look at it and write music.
Interesting. It's such a gift too, of course, to be able to compose and write. I think. And then my other question was: does playing? Were you self-taught with guitar? And also, does playing guitar, does that influence how you play piano or compose or anything?
It may subconsciously, because I played a lot of rock music when I was first starting, and so it was this very dark, sometimes introspective instrumental rock music. I mean, I was playing stuff like Jess Satriani and Steve Vai and Stevie Ray Vaughan, all the guitar greats. Wow. And, I was, to answer the other part of your question is, I did have some lessons for guitar in the early beginning stages of it, but again, a lot of it was also very self-taught, independent study. I was just very driven and very inspired by music. Even from an early age, even when I didn't play an instrument, I always had a deep love for music.
And music is so incredibly powerful and healing, and I'm just so grateful that you've shared your gift, because the world's a better place for it. And so thank you for pursuing your passion, really.
Thank you to everybody that has listened and supported me. As long as there's people out there supporting me, the creation of music will continue.
And it really is a two-way street. It's just like anything in life is about that feedback, and we're all connected. So it's wonderful. So on that note, we're going to go out with playing Love Remembered. So what album does that come off of? And also, is there anything that you'd like to say about the final song that we're playing today?
Yeah, Love Remembered is actually a really fun song for me to play. It's probably not one of my most popular songs. It's kind of buried in my catalog, but it's one of the more tender romantic pieces that I've written. It's a very simple piece, but very touching. And it first appeared on my In a Lifetime album, and then it reappears on my retrospective Heart to Hands album. And it's an album, or the song rather, is about Love Remembered is about first love. I mean, we all remember our first love and all the feelings and emotions that come with that, and that's really what the song is about. It's about remembering our first love.
Well, that's great, and it's also, I think it's it's also nice to get in touch with kind of like our own, again, coming from the heart, right? I think that's a good metaphor for today in general. So, I'm gonna play this as we're going out. But so again, I just want to thank you so much for being here, and it was just it was such a pleasure to have you on the show today. So, thank you so much, Philip.
Thank you for having me. You're welcome.
And I will. Thank you, and I'm sure I'll talk to you on Facebook or Twitter or something. So,
yeah,
take
absolutely.
care.
I love keeping in touch with people on social media.
Oh, great. Well, it was thank you so much for connecting with me on there as well. And thanks again. And I'll talk to you at some point. Take care.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.